And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And tonight we're going to talk about the cutesy little movie called It's a Wonderful Knife. Now obviously this is a horror version, slasher version of It's a Wonderful Life, which is the cheesiest movie ever made. And I actually appreciate that they kept this cheesy, because it's supposed to be the remake of a cheesiest movie ever made. Yes. So, It's a Wonderful Life was released in 2023. And it was directed by Tyler MacIntyre. It was written by Michael Kennedy, and it stars Jane Widdop, Joel McHale, and Justin Long from Barbarian and other stuff. But to me, he's the asshole from Barbarian. So, we are introduced to Angel Falls with Henry's commercial for that new big mall that he wants to build. We are introduced to the Carruthers family, which might as well be Pleasantville. We're introduced to Winnie, David, Judy, and Jimmy. You know, the Carruthers family. We are also introduced to Henry and Buck Waters, which they make right off the bat that Jimmy has a thing for Buck. So that was funny. They can't get this guy, to build that mall, this Henry Rogers, or Henry, whatever his name is, Henry Waters. So Henry wants to build this gigantic mall, but this one holdout guy, Roger Evans, will not sign to sell his land, even at a good price. So later on that night, we see the angel, which is the angel from the Christmas tree. That's the disguise the murderer uses in this movie, which I thought was cool. I like his outfit. So, he shows up at the door and cuts his throat. He also ends up killing his granddaughter, Kara, in a really, really good scene. That candy cane through that boy's head was pretty gross. That was pretty uncalled for. And then he tries to kill Jimmy, or tries to kill Winnie, but Jimmy intervenes. And there's a big fight where he almost kills Jimmy, but Winnie ends up putting jumper cables on him and electrocuting him. So that was all cool. And that was just the intro. So, she takes the mask off and it's Henry Waters. Now, a year later, the show jumps to a year later, and we see that the Carruthers have gotten very well off. They've made a lot of progress in the town. We see the cheesiest commercial ever of the dad and Jimmy. And we see that Winnie is not having a very good time. She went through all that trauma. Her best friend was killed. She had to kill someone, who was supposedly her dad's best friend. So it's been rough. And now she gets a rejection letter from the college that she wants to go into. And she's out walking around, and Buck, Henry's brother, stops her on the street, and that scares her pretty badly, which it would me too. And he starts screaming at her about how he should hate her and stuff like that, and how well her family has done since she murdered his brother. And I was like, you asshole, he was killing people. What do you expect? But, I'm sure he's conflicted. So, we see Christmas morning, and this is like a fucking hilarious scene. And that is that she gets... This movie was so good. She gets, this little package, and she opens it up, and it's like it's a pink tracksuit to go jogging in. And she's like, really? Seriously? This is Christmas present? Are you trying to tell me something? You know, and like her aunt looks at them and is like, you never give women something like that. They're going to take it the wrong way. It's just not an appropriate present for a woman. And she gets kind of mad and she goes up into her bedroom because they keep like, you got to go try it on. You got to go try it on. And she goes and she tries it on. And then she hears a loud car honk, you know, and she goes downstairs, or she goes out and looks down and asks her aunt, like, you know, what's going on? Where'd everybody go? And she tells them, oh, they got Jimmy a new truck. And she's like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. And at that moment when I was watching it, I was like, what the fuck? So she goes down and she goes out into the yard, and there's like a what is that? Like a $65,000 truck? I mean, that is one of those trucks. You know what I'm saying? That truck has got to be at least like $50,000 to $65,000, if not more. And she like runs out there and she's like, you know, and her aunt's gay, so she like runs out there, and it was hilarious when she's like, you got me a pink lesbian tracksuit? And then her aunt like chimes in and goes, we would never wear that. So I was like, she's like, yeah. And then her brother, that's sweet. Jimmy is like Jimmy Olsen from Superman. He's like so sweet. And he's like, oh, it's ours. You can drive it anytime you want. It's sort of like our present. She's like, yeah, that was a nice try there, you know. But y'all got me a pink lesbian tracksuit and you got him a truck? And I was like, you know, that would not be a happy situation for me. It would not be a good Christmas night. It would not be a good Christmas, because I'm like, Pleasantville would be on fire if that was me, because I would be like, you got me a jogging suit and you got me brother a fucking $65,000 truck? Really? You think this is going to go well tonight? Slasherific would be because it's going to take a lot of explaining to keep me from killing you people tonight around the Christmas tree. That's all I got to say. Because that was what the fuck. So she freaks out. She then goes to like the local house party where there's always, you know, this hippie couple or something always doing drugs, and house full of partiers all the time. She goes there looking for her boyfriend, where she catches him screwing Darla. His name was Robbie. So catches him cheating, screwing Darla in the laundry room. And I felt for the girl, because I'm like, this is not a good day going down here, you know? So, and of course you've seen this weird girl, the weird girl, Bernie. You know, you've seen her. There, she's the girl that everybody picks on and nobody likes. So she had tried, well, Winnie thought she was trying to protect Robbie, you know, like telling her he went outside and keep her from catching them in the laundry room. But yeah, so poor girl has not had a good time. So she goes out into the dock. She's really upset. There's an aurora, and she wishes what I think a lot of us would at that moment, you know. It's like, I wish I had never been born. And then there's all these sparkles and shit, and the town suddenly gets very quiet and dark, and she turns around and, what's up, you know? And she goes walking up to the dock, and when she gets up the dock, the killer, the angel, comes around the corner, and he stabs some fisherman, you know. And she screams, and she's like, what the fuck, you know? And here it goes. She ends up running for help, and she busts out the sheriff's window of his SUV, and Buck Waters comes running up, and he's like in the sheriff's outfit, and he's like, what are you doing, young lady? And she's like, what the fuck are you? How did you become sheriff? You know? And he's like, who are you? What's up? You know? And she starts telling him that the killer is just killed and she knows who it is and all that. But then Henry Waters walks up, freaking her out. And he's like, young lady, who are you? So, like, nobody knows her, right? And this is definitely blowing her mind. She ends up like, no, I don't know. He just chased me. I got away. I misspoke. I don't know who did it. And she goes on to that party house. Nobody recognizes her. Those are some funny scenes, you know. Robbie doesn't recognize her. Darla, and they're this happy couple and all. And she even, like, talks to Bernie, the weird girl, and she's like, no, I don't know you. And she starts, like, telling her that nobody knows me, but I know all of you. And Bernie thinks she's a little weird. We see all the murders continue to happen. And she ends up, like, going home with the Bernie because she's so freaked out, and starts telling Bernie the truth. So she tells Bernie the truth, and Bernie, like, relatively listens, you know. And she had went, the horrible scene where she had went home and, like, nobody had recognized her at home, and her dad, her brother's room, and her mom was like a drunk, and her aunt was alone, didn't have her partner with her and stuff. That was really tense. They ended up throwing her out. So she went, like I said, to Bernie's room, and they're discussing the situation, and Bernie's like, almost starts like going, maybe you're the killer, when the angel strikes and comes through the window. So now Bernie believes her. Bernie's the only one that believes her. They end up going to her safe place, which is the cinema, because Henry owns everything in town now. And while she goes to sleep because she's exhausted, Bernie ends up actually researching all of this and wakes her up and tells her, you know, that she's a computer nerd. She researched all of this and that she knows what's going on. You know, and they showed all of these weird things that she had made about the aurora and the myths about what it is and stuff. And that she's got to kill Henry again to get back home, to change things back to the way it goes. She ends up going back to her dad to talk to him, and he does at least he does talk to her this time, after she talks to her aunt and says some stuff that freaked her aunt out. You know, it's like, well, I don't understand how you know this. So she does let her go and talk to the dad, and the dad does talk to her, but she can't convince him, and when she does try to tell him the truth, he throws her out again. She's freaked out. Her mom's got a live-in side piece right there in the house and stuff like that, which is freaking her out. Now, of course, and Bernie's with her, you know. So they see her dad leave, but then her mom is killed by the angel, and the boyfriend as well. So that freaks them all out. The killer is trying to kill her. She ends up managing to throw him down the stairs, and she goes down there and he's dead. Or no, he's not dead, but she opens it up, opens his mask, and it's her dad. So that freaks her out. Freaked me out too. You know, so they end up, like, her and Gail and Bernie end up running to the cinema again. Now this is where it's like, okay, so I don't need to kill Henry. I need to kill my dad because he's the one doing the murders to get this done. So they plan an ambush of the dad, and her dad does show up, and they end up managing to kill him, skewer him on the stairs. And she runs out there with Bernie. Poor Gail got killed too, which was fucked up. She ends up going back there to the dock, because now everything should be okay, right? And she tries to reverse the spell, if you will, in bewitched terms. She tries to reverse the spell. It does not work. And even I was like, no, you got to kill Henry. You know, they hear the event going on. They go to the event. And like everybody is like got these weird eyes. I don't know if you noticed that when you watch this movie, but because it's kind of hard to spot. But then you notice that everybody's got almost, because you see, it's not as obvious as like Children of the Damned, right? It's not obvious as that. Their eyes aren't that white, but they're a little bit white. And so he's like got these people under his some kind of witchcraft control type thing. He kills his own brother, Buck, when he finds out that he put in for a transfer to leave town to get away from all this shit. He ends up killing him right on stage and stringing him up like the angel on a Christmas tree. That was a fucked up visual, to tell you the truth. And Winnie and her end up going up there, and there's big confrontations, and they do end up together killing him. So they kill Henry, and they go back down to the pier, makes the wish, and this time it works. She wakes up back home, just like the old cheesy movie. She wakes up back home, very happy with her pink suit. But they did have another present for her, and that was a really expensive camera. So maybe if she hadn't have freaked out that night and left before they could give her the second present, this would not have happened. Because I did find it a little weird that they would only give her a tracksuit while they got him a truck. So they did have that big, fancy, expensive camera for her. So that's another thing that she learned, you know, along with her life lesson. So she ends up running all skippy happy down the street. She goes to Bernie's. And at first, Bernie is like, because remember, Bernie was going to commit suicide in the past. So that's why she took off running. That was one of the secrets she learned in the alternate universe reality, was that actually Bernie was going to commit suicide. So she ran to Bernie's when she thought of that. She ran to Bernie's, and Bernie opened the door and acted like she didn't know what was going on. And she's like, I'm your friend. I care about you and you're important. And that's when Bernie like smiled and's like, I know, I'm just playing. And it's because, you know, Bernie had, because like when you saw, first of all, they both killed Henry. But, you know, when she reversed the spell, they were hugging. So Bernie got looped. So Bernie knew it all. She remembered the stuff that happened in the older universe, in the alternate universe. So they laugh and giggle and carry on. And everything is happy. Everything ended well. And life is back to normal. And that asshole is dead. And Buck is still an asshole. But at least everything is back to normal. And yeah, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie. And the parts, you know, well, like I said, that scene where she got the pink tracksuit is probably my favorite scene in the movie, because that was like, what the fuck? You know, we would not be singing Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. I would have been a very upset individual at that moment. But what I think one of the best things I like about this movie is that It's a Wonderful Life is kind of cheese, right? It's like put you in a sugar coma. You know, it's one of those, and A Christmas Carol, you know, those movies that are just so goody two-shoes you want to die of a sugar coma. You know. So even though this was a bloody, the kills in this were really cool. So even though this was a bloody rated R horror version of It's a Wonderful Life, The story itself is a cheesy It's a Wonderful Life story. Who was that? Fred McMurray? Who was it that did that? Or who was that? That makes me feel bad now. I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't Fred McMurray. Henry Fonda? Tell me in the comments. Was it Henry Fonda that was in A Wonderful Life? It's a Wonderful Life? I can't remember. It was one of those guys. But as you can see, Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life is not really my kind of classic film. I'm more Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, bitch kind of classic. Ann Baxter, stuff like that. Barbara Stanwyck. Yeah, so film noir is my thing. But I like the way that they kept this so cheesy. Because let me tell you, the Pleasantville cheesy scenes, the commercials, how sweet and disgusting everybody was. Her mom, her dad, Jimmy, everybody was just so goody two shoe, just like It's a Wonderful Life. I like that. I like that they kept it ridiculously sleazy, ridiculously cheesy. No, sleazy was Exploited, the last movie we did. Cheesy is this movie. But I think that was a great idea. I think they did a really good job updating It's a Wonderful Life to a bloody massacre thing. The actors were great. Jimmy was disgustingly sweet. I'd have to marry him just for that. He would never cheat on you. You know what I mean? Winnie was great. Bernie was good. I liked her aunt. And Justin Long was great as this absolutely horrible individual. He was Scrooge, right? But yeah, I really loved this movie. I think this movie was a really good thing to do. I'm glad it exists. I'm glad I have it in my collection. It's definitely one of those new ones for your Christmas movie list. And yeah, I'm very, very glad that I got this. It's a Wonderful Life from 2022. Definitely an A+ positive from me. And I will see you in the next videos I do. Love you, miss you, bye-bye. Always remember, never forget, you are a very, very special person. No matter what anybody tells you. If they tell you any different, they are lying. And you are important. You are valuable. You mean something in this world. The world is a better place with you in it. Now fuck off.